RIP tyres. Oh my God! This is the BMW M8 Competition, and it is the top of the BMW food chain. It is the most powerful production car BMW has ever made. But that's the easy bit. The harder, more ambitious part of this car is that it's trying to take on some of the best Grand Tourers on the market. The Aston DB11, Mercedes S63, and the McLaren GT. Some tough competition. Can it pull it off? So, if there's one thing every good GT car needs, it's a good engine. And this thing, let me tell you, has an absolute stonker of a motor. Let me put it in some context for you. The V8 Aston Martin DB11 makes 608 metric horsepower. Not bad. The McLaren GT produces 620 PS. Decent. But this BMW M8 Competition, 625 horsepower. It's an animal. Let's talk a little bit more about the engine. So it's a 4.4 litre V8 with 2 twin-power turbos, and it revs up to 7,200 RPM, which is pretty damn decent for a blown engine. A lot of turbos tend to run out of puff quite low down in the rev range, but this thing, it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. And then you put your foot down, and no matter what speed you're doing, it just pulls some more. This thing never seems to run out of power. All of that power goes through an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and with the help of BMW's xDrive system, it will do outrageous acceleration times. 0 to 62 is taken care of in just 3.2 seconds in the coupe. The Aston DB11 and S63 take a second longer. When it comes to straight line acceleration, there really isn't a lot in this car's class that can get anywhere near an M8 Competition. It is a beast in a straight line. Special shout out has to go to the exhaust. I know it's a V8, I know V8s sound great, but turbo powered V8s don't always sound amazing. This thing, however, sounds tremendous. It's not what I'd call antisocial, but find a tunnel, open the windows, drop it a couple of gears, and open it up. Trust me, it sounds like warfare. But while it goes well and sounds good, it doesn't look very fast. It looks a bit like an 8 Series with a few extras. When you buy a McLaren or an Aston Martin, the whole world will know you're in a rocket ship. The M8, in comparison, flies below the radar, but there are some subtle clues that it's more aggressive than your average 8 Series. There are M side gills, 20-inch forged alloys, 6-piston calipers, painted gold to show when it uses the optional carbon ceramics, M carbon fiber roof as standard to reduce the weight and center of gravity, a rear spoiler plus M apron and rear diffuser. Like rivals, including the Bentley or Aston, you also get a 2+2 seating layout and a pretty luxurious interior. There's loads in here that will make you feel like you're in something really special. The merino leather is gorgeous. I really like the Alcantara roof lining, this M multifunction steering wheel, and the bespoke M gear knob. But here's the problem. This is a £120,000 car, minimum. And the issue is that BMW make a load of other cars that, although not quite as special, aren't far off. Just think about cars like the 1 Series, 3 Series, 5 Series, 7 Series, all technically lesser cars, but with interiors that aren't a million miles off this thing. I don't know if I'm being a bit too picky here, but do I want my flagship M8 to have anything in common with the 116D? I don't think so. So, it's actually a reasonably sensible car. It's quite practical, it's quite spacious, it has loads of gadgets, and it has BMW's xDrive system, so if you want to drive in bad weather, snow, ice, sleet, then it's a car you can actually use every day and feel really confident driving. It's a car you can throw around too. BMW says it's track ready, and while I wouldn't dispute that, what I can tell you is that it's excellent on the road when you decide to push on. There's a lovely flow to the chassis, lots of grip, and while the ride might be unsettled on rough roads, the M8's cornering prowess is almost a match for its straight line speed. It's massively capable, massively fast, and most importantly, massively fun. And that's partly down to the fact that it's able to put all of its power down safely with the help of that xDrive all-wheel drive system. But even though it has xDrive, I want to make one thing very clear. At the touch of a button, this car can transform from nice, polite, civilized Grand Tourer to absolute maniac. Let me show you something. All right, so a lot of you will have seen this in the BMW M5, but what I'm about to do is turn the traction control off, then go into Configure M xDrive, and then change it from 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive. RIP tyres. Oh my God! Wow. Yeah. Look, like I told you, man, this thing is absolutely insane. It's the kind of mode that you switch on once to maybe show off and show people you can do burnouts, and then never, ever switch it on again, because it is terrifying, especially going around the corner. Man, it's terrifying in a straight line. So it has a shed load of power, but you also need to be able to stop, right? No problem. The M8 as standard comes with steel brakes, but as an option, you can have carbon ceramics. And for the first time ever in a BMW, you can actually configure how the brakes respond to your inputs. So you can either have them really responsive when you're on a racetrack, or you can have them soften up a little bit and be a little less grabby when you're cruising around town. The idea is great in principle, but the reality is that you can barely tell the difference between the two. It is actually a little bit of a gimmick. So we know the M8 is going up against some really sporty rivals that are well known for their performance, but those cars aren't necessarily known for their technology, and that's where BMW might actually have an advantage. The tech is, for this segment anyway, pretty cutting edge and includes one of the most full-featured stereo systems around, online streaming audio options, gesture controls, semi-autonomous driving, freaking laser headlights, even a built-in CCTV system that records accidents. The M8 is a brilliant car, but the elephant in the room here is that if you buy one of these, you're essentially spending Aston Martin or Bentley money on a BMW. But if that's your attitude, then I've got to say, you're probably missing the point, because this car brings so much to the table. I get the argument that it might not be as glamorous or as exotic as some of its rivals, but if you want to fly underneath the radar, then this might be the smart choice. In a lot of cases, it's more powerful, it's faster, it's arguably just as fun, just as mental as any GT you care to mention, especially thanks to that rear-wheel drive mode. So, all things considered, the M8 is a hell of a car.